Adam, you couldn't have said it better in that those 2 weeks all of a sudden feel like a month. We've become so accustomed to great football action week in, week out during the regular season. Three, sometimes four of our weekdays are dominated by football. And now we get to this point in the year and there's just one Sunday and we have to wait 14 days for it. But fortunately, Sunday is closing in upon us. And for those out there where I see the betting lines, the Eagles are a 1.5-point favorite. That line hasn't moved over the last week. Obviously, when that line first came out after the conference championship games, the Chiefs were originally favored by a point, 2 points in some places. That immediately swung to the Eagles and has sat firmly at 1.5 points ever since. The total is currently set at 51 points. We will go through gambling trends like we always do, as well as some game notes, and we'll also get to some fun topics around the NFL. But we are going to start right here at the Super Bowl. Some gambling trends before we get analysis from everyone. The Chiefs are 3-8-1 against the spread in their last 12 games overall, while the Eagles are 7-2 against the spread versus a team with a winning record. The Chiefs are also 1-5 against the spread versus a team with a winning record, and the Eagles are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games after accumulating less than 150 yards of passing in their previous game. Obviously, their most recent game against the 49ers 2 weeks ago, they didn't need to rely on the passing game too much. It was a bit of a blowout. As for the total, some trends for you. The over is 4-1 in the last 5 meetings between the Chiefs and the Eagles. However, the under is 5-1 in the Chiefs' last 6 games versus a team with a winning record, and the under is 4-0 in the Eagles' last 4 games overall. Adam, let's start right away. What are some of the positions you look to be pivotal in this game? Where are you looking for tipping points where teams have an advantage? Before we get to your pick, what are some of the players? What are some of the positions you have your eye on for this Super Bowl?
Well, I think offensive line for Philadelphia has been playing really well. They're finally somewhat healthy back again here now, and giving Hurts a lot of time to not only throw the football, but also run blocking for him. But that Kansas City defensive line is very stout, too, with Chris Jones and the boys. In fact, interesting stat, Philadelphia's defensive line and Kansas City defensive line, they are number 1 and 2 in the NFL in sacks per game. Philly's at 4.1 and Kansas City's at 3.3. So they can put pressure on the quarterback, but I really do like the way Philadelphia, the offensive line has been playing. Another side is we talked about it, what Blease mentioned, the wide receiving core for Kansas City. How healthy is it going to be? You have Skylar Moore out there, Valdez-Scantling. I know very well about him and his time in Green Bay. Injuries on that side of the ball. So Hartman's going to be out. They did activate Edwards-Helaire, so that could, go to Mahomes in the screen game, as he's really good with the screen game. But the wide receiver core of Kansas City, the biggest question mark for me and the biggest strengths for me is the offensive line for Philadelphia and how well they've played over these playoffs. Now, granted, Philadelphia's kind of rolled here over the Giants and San Fran. They really haven't been tested much, where Kansas City, on the other side of the coin, has had a hard-fought game against Jacksonville and, of course, a hard-fought game against Cincinnati. But, to answer your question again there, why biggest strength to me is offensive line Philadelphia, and the biggest weakness or question mark for me will be Kansas City's wide receiving core.
I completely agree with you. And one of the things I take away from the last 2 weeks of rest is that Lane Johnson, I know he's been dealing with, I believe, a torn groin, the pain of that play in, play out, but giving him some time to recover. The Eagles' offensive line is the personality of this team, whether it's Lane Johnson or Jason Kelce. And you can tell on how successful they are at running the football, not just with their running backs, but also with Jalen Hurts. This offensive line sets the tone. I can't wait to see the matchup between Jason Kelce and Chris Jones. That, to me, is going to be one of the star one-on-one matchups of this game. But another position that I have my eye on, obviously, is how can you take away Travis Kelce? How are the Eagles going to try to apply their safeties or their linebackers? We know Hassan Reddick is going to be blitzing often from the edge. That's also going to be often the same side Travis Kelce's either coming from, set up close to the line, or set up in kind of that slot position. But do you give extra safety help? He's going to be targeted anywhere from 8 to maybe 12, even 14 times in this game. So you have to expect there's going to be some kind of underplay coverage. I wonder if they want to even drop the defensive end back and maybe take away some of those short 5-yard passes, try to confuse Patrick Mahomes. But because of that, I also wonder if that's going to open up opportunities in the running game. I talk about Travis Kelce, how the Eagles are going to try and take away him. On the other side, how can the Chiefs take advantage of the bad run defense of the Eagles? And it's not atrocious, but they're so good against the pass. They have to give up yards in some place, and it's against the run. Isaiah Pacheco is someone I definitely have my eye on. We'll get to prop bets a little bit later in the show, but I think Isaiah Pacheco is going to play a very important role in this game. And if there's any warning that I would have, I want to make sure that Andy Reid does not get pass happy with Patrick Mahomes. He needs to be balanced. I feel like when Andy Reid gets in big games, sometimes he relies on his quarterback a little bit too much. I haven't seen that over the last 2 games. I hope it continues in this one. Remain balanced, especially because Mahomes isn't as dynamic with his legs because of that high ankle sprain. Use Pacheco, use McKinnon. I heard they have Edwards-Helaire is going to be active for this game. They brought him back off the IR and put McCole Hardman on the IR with a pelvic injury. So I think there are opportunities for the Chiefs to use different running backs, Pacheco being the number one opportunity, and using them against a run defense for the Eagles that can be exploited at times. Blease, given how you like to watch the game, what are some matchups or certain players that you have your eye on?
Yeah, I agree with you on the run game. I think they're going to have to establish the run because I just don't see them passing. Like, I feel like um, their defensive line is so much better than Bengals, and Bengals were getting after him. And I think they're going to look at that playbook. And yeah, his ankle is going to be a little healthy, but how much are they going to really want to run him? I just don't see it. Like maybe, if they have to in the fourth quarter, like they did against the Bengals, but I don't see it. So I do like Pacheco in this game because I think they're going to really have to dink and dunk a lot to him because that pass rush is going to get through. I just didn't like what I was seeing out of that offensive line. And he can tear you up from the pocket. You can't count him out of his ability to make plays happen. But yeah, how they're gonna cover Travis Kelce. I do think he's gonna have a big game. But yeah, the wide receiving core. MVS stepped up though. MVS really did step up and really impressed in that championship game. So can he do that again now that tape is there for the Eagles to see? I don't know. They're gonna have to scheme up some stuff.
It's a great point, and that's MVS torching Eli Apple, who is a high risk, high reward kind of player. He's going after interceptions, but he often gets burned on deeper passes. The Eagles aren't going to play that kind of way. They're going to be physical at the line of scrimmage, but they're very disciplined. When they give up big plays, which is possible, it really is because of you're designing such a play that's smart enough to draw in their safeties. Maybe you can do that playing MVS off of Kelce, try and draw that high safety in over Kelce over the top and open up MVS. I think that's one way you can do it. But to me, it has to be winning at the line of scrimmage. And part of that isn't just the offensive line against the defensive line of the Eagles. Again, it's the running game. It's a place where I think the Chiefs need to rely heavily. A couple of notes for you. These kind of fall into both gambling trends as well as game notes, but things that stand out. As an underdog in his career, Patrick Mahomes is 6-3 straight up and 7-1-1 against the spread. Obviously an underdog in this game. The Super Bowl winner, the eventual Super Bowl winner is 47-7-2 against the spread all time. So more often than not, a team that wins covers the spread. However, the favorite in the Super Bowl is just 27-2. So as even as it could possibly be against the spread. A couple of interesting notes about the coaches. The coach with more Super Bowl experience has actually lost five of the last 12 games. So Andy Reid having more experience doesn't necessarily equate to a greater record. Kansas City is 5-11-1 against the spread on the season. Eagles 6-10-1 against the spread in the regular season. So both of these teams haven't been great at covering the spread. As I mentioned earlier, where I see it, the Eagles are a 1.5 favorite. We'll get into storylines now, talk a little bit more about these games. Again, we'll get to our picks in a little bit. But if you want to get all of our picks for the Super Bowl, whether it's game picks, total plays, player prop bets, everything you need to cash in on NFL Sunday, make sure you go to our website, butfumblesports.com, sign up for the free newsletter. That newsletter comes out Friday morning, and it'll have all of our picks all in one place, as well as all of our gambling trends and game notes. So whether you agree with our picks or want to disagree, it's all in one place. Before we move on to some of the storylines in this one, we'll get to picks in a little bit. Adam, I see you want to jump in. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, real quick, just to tag on to your trends there. I did see another thing about coaching in the Super Bowl. In 12 years of the Super Bowl, with a coach with experience versus non-experience, the coach with experience is 3-8-1 against the spread and 7-5 straight up. So just another little trend there to tag on to what you just had there.
Yeah, I actually think I butchered that stat, and I think you just saved me on it. So I appreciate that, Adam. I think that came out wrong. I had it written right in my notes, but I think you just saved me and corrected me on that. So again, to underline, the experienced head coach doesn't necessarily equate to success later on.